I'm gonna explain to you, no, yung module 1 natin. And it's very imperative that communicators are very knowledgeable, no, on the topic they are communicating to their intended audience. So this does not only boost the confidence natin as speakers to impart knowledge, but also allows the person, no, to be more trustworthy and credible to the people so that he or she could commit change the community. So what are the 10 must-knows that every communicator should know in the COVID-19 vaccination program? So by the end of this module, ito po yung mga objectives natin. No? Each participant should be number one, enumerate yung ating enumerate the objectives of the COVID-19 vaccine deployment program. And number two is to respond with the accurate answers to 10 COVID-19 vaccine must-knows that I will discuss in a short while. Next slide. So to start, we should know the objectives of this COVID-19 vaccination program. So the general objective is actually to save lives, no, and mitigate the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, while our specific objectives are number one, to launch a national vaccination program against COVID-19, and number two is to provide free and effective high-quality vaccines against this virus, no, prioritizing those most at risk and most vulnerable populations. So question number one, punta tayo sa question number one. Why do we need to get vaccinated? So the COVID-19 pandemic has taken many lives, as we have seen in the news, and continues to put many at risk. It has also disrupted yung economy natin, leaving many Filipinos jobless or underemployed. But with the availability of this COVID-19 vaccine, we have the opportunity, no, to get ahead of the virus. Pwede natin maunahan yung virus. These vaccines can, number one, prevent symptomatic infection, and possibly number two, prevent severe infection, and number three is to prevent its transmission. However, like mga ibang bakuna natin, which we have used during the past decades, the protective effect of our community is maximized only pag 70% ng ating population are vaccinated. For example, if our community or if your barangay has 100,000 people, no, at least 70,000 people should be vaccinated to ensure protection of the community. So remember, ito yung mga talking points natin. This is not just about getting you and your vaccine and your family vaccinated, but also this is about your whole barangay, your community, your city, your province up for the vaccination. So what is the question number two? Anong mga bakuna ba yung gagamitin? Which vaccines will be used? So there is currently a limited supply, no, of vaccines all over the world. In fact, 80% ng ating global stocks of vaccines have already been bought, no, by high-income countries. And because there is no single company that can provide for vaccines for the 10 million of us, the government is in talk with the 7 manufacturers. But rest assured that the only vaccines that have received yung ating Philippine FDA's Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA, will be bought and used. So the EUA provides the assurance that it has been thoroughly evaluated, no, and recommended by various independent experts. Also, don't worry, COVID-19 vaccines cannot make you sick with COVID-19. So makikita po natin na ang ating FDA at ang ating mga experts have been evaluating and reviewing itong mga bakuna na papasok sa Pilipinas. So who are these expert groups, no, and what they do? So makikita natin dito na meron tayong 5 boxes dito corresponding to the 5 technical expert groups that we have. So makikita natin na hindi siya basta-basta ang proseso. So the vaccine expert panel determines if the government should allow clinical trials and make recommendations kung anong bakuna ang bibilhin. While the Philippine FDA, or the Food and Drug Administration, aims to answer if the vaccine is safe and efficacious, while the Health Technology Assessment Council evaluates the evidence for those undergoing clinical trials, while the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group, or the NITAG, looks at how this vaccine should be delivered to the people. And finally, the National Adverse Events Following Immunization Committee, or the NAFIC, looks at the adverse events, no, kung ano yung mangyayari after no, sa pagbabakuna, at sila yung mag-iimbestiga if they are caused by these vaccines. So ano ba yung ating vaccine development and approval process? So development stage covers the preclinical, the phase 1, and phase 2, and the phase 3 of the clinical trial. So the preclinical stage, dun sa una tayo, actually evaluates the properties and effects of these vaccines sa mga laboratory animals and laboratory models. If acceptable in animal studies, yung candidate na bakuna will move next to the next level, which is the clinical development. So dito, papasok na yung ating increasing number of participants. In phase 1, we have 10 to 100 participants. So safety of the vaccine will be observed on multiple doses. If with acceptable results of phase 1, we will move to phase 2 for monitoring of safety and initial efficacy. At this stage, we already have 100 to 1,000 participants. So dumadami po siya. In phase 3, efficacy and long-term safety is determined wherein 1,000 and a large group of people is being involved in this clinical trial. No? So during a pandemic, an assessment is made if emergency use of vaccine is justified. 2 questions ang kailangan po sagutin kung justified na may bigyan ng emergency use ang isang bakuna. Una, is it safe and efficacious? At pangalawa, do benefits outweigh the risks? So an application and approval for the EUA, narinig po natin yung EUA na sa news, can be made in the interim data for phase 3. So ang ginagamit po nating reference dito at saka basis dito is the interim data for the phase 3 clinical trial, which will show kung acceptable by evidence of safety and efficacy and if benefits of using the vaccine during the emergency outweighs the risk. So this is in contrast naman po doon sa ating CPR or our Certificate of Product Registration, which will only be granted after review of the completed data of phase 3 clinical trials. Question number 3, do we have to pay anything or is this for free? So the government will provide the vaccine for free po, no? So you do not need to pay for anything to be vaccinated. Okay. Punta naman po tayo sa question number 4. What are the goals of prioritizing who gets the vaccine first? So we actually have primary, secondary, and tertiary goal. Our primary goal is actually the maintenance, no, of most critical essential services, yung bibigay po na serbisyo. At pangalawa, direct reduction ng morbidity and mortality o yung mga nagkakasakit at namamatay. Our secondary goal is to substantially control transmission. So we're talking about controlling the pandemic. And second is to minimize the disruption dun sa ating social, economic, and security functions. And our tertiary goal is, of course, resumption to near normal. So let's see who are eligible for the eligible population, no, for COVID-19 vaccination based on this primary, secondary, and tertiary goal. So for priority eligible group A, we have the following. We have the frontline health workers, indigent senior citizens, remaining senior citizens, remaining indigent population, and uniformed personnel. Why is this so? This is because we need to ensure that our health system, no, will be able to continuously care for all of us. Medical frontliners will be the first to receive the vaccines. Ito ay para mabigyan natin silang proteksyon sa mga taong nandun talaga sa mga linya ng trabaho na nakipaglaban sa COVID-19. This is to be followed by eligible senior citizens who are at greatest risk of severe infection or deaths. And we all know kasi from our local data that COVID-19 is more dangerous sa mga elderly natin at mga nakakatanda. So the sequence of who will be prioritized have been determined with the help of our experts, which I have mentioned a while ago. So who are the frontline health workers? No? So these are healthcare workers assigned in public and private facilities. So these are healthcare workers manning triage areas, outpatient departments, emergency rooms, wards, intensive care units, operating rooms, and delivery rooms. Also kasama dito yung mga nasa laboratory, radiologic, and pathologic areas, saka sa mga rehabilitation units natin. Those part of the disinfection and decontamination, medical social workers natin sa hospital, at yung mga security guards natin are also included in this priority eligible group. So public healthcare workers are also included in priority eligible group A, no? So these are public primary care facilities, mga rural health units, city health offices, mga provincial health offices, mga centers for health development, mga DOH central office and attached agencies natin. And this will also include yung mga LG deployed or hired natin na designated contact tracers. So kasama rin po dito, syempre, ang ating mga barangay health workers who are actually active in service. So this barangay health response teams, no, yung yung kailangan natin bigyan because they are the ones who are also doing the contact tracing. And lastly, ito yung mga next list na nasa priority eligible group A natin, no? So other national government agencies, yung mga tao nagtatrabaho sa DSWD who are manning yung closed setting facilities natin at saka long-term facilities natin, katulad ng mga ating orphanages, home for the aged, at saka women's crisis centers, no? And also those people, mga social workers natin, providing social amelioration packages and social services in the communities. Also, kasama po dito yung DILG hired contact tracers, saka mga uniform personnel natin po sa Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. So this is these employees are assigned to are with direct contact with our PDLs at saka yung mga jail officers natin, wardens and guards. So sa priority eligible B naman po, we have the following: teachers, social workers, other government workers, other essential workers outside health, yun nasa sector po ng edukasyon, social welfare sectors at agrikultura. We also have your other social demographic groups at a significantly higher risk, no, other than senior citizens. So ito yung mga PDLs natin at yung mga PWDs at saka mga Filipinos living in high density areas. Kasama rin po natin dito sa priority eligible group B ang ating mga OFWs at other remaining workforce. And lastly, to reach our tertiary goal, our priority eligible C will be all remaining Filipino citizens. So question number 5 po, no? When and where will I get vaccinated? So the national government is working in partnership with our local governments to get these vaccines to the people, to the community, to you. So our local government unit will arrange for the registration and scheduling of the vaccination. So for now, we just need to wait for specific instructions and announcements from your respective LCEs or local chief executive mayors and governors. So there are critical planning steps done by DOH in coordination with the local government units. So the first 2 steps focuses on determining the number of eligible population and actually identifying the implementing units in different areas for vaccination. So DOH with the LGU will implement an electronic immunization registry wherein magkakaroon po tayo ng master list of the target eligible population that will be uploaded in a database. So this will be used for easier identification and subsequent communication of vaccination schedules ng ating eligible population. So DOH with LGUs will identify implementing units in your area and the number of vaccination sites. So we will be using a fixed post-vaccination strategy wherein the following facilities may be tapped as implementing units. So this includes yung mga medical centers natin, hospitals and infirmaries, rural health units, health facilities of other government agencies, at yung mga private clinics. So this will be determined kung ano yung mga pwede natin gamiting implementing units in giving the vaccines. So we go now to question number 6. What do I do before vaccination? So number 1 is to make sure you obtain accurate information. While we wait for the vaccines to arrive, make sure na dapat yung mga accurate information natin is sourced only from right and credible sources. So ask only licensed medical professionals so that they can answer correctly regarding the COVID-19 vaccination. As mentioned by Director Beverly Ho a while ago, PMA, PNA, and other medical societies have been committing in answering these questions. So we may direct them to, we may direct yung mga hard questions to them and also answer yung mga pwede nating sagutin based on our training today. So we need to verify things you may have read or heard. It is only when you are armed with the right information that you can rightfully decide for yourself if you will be vaccinated. So the second is emphasis on screening. So your health history will be very crucial in determining whether you should get vaccinated or what vaccines are appropriate for you. So it is therefore very important that you take health screening very, very seriously. So kailangan pumunta po sa araw kung saan kayo magpapascreen and declare your complete medical history, allergies, risky behavior, ano po yung mga medicines na kinukuha ninyo, so that we could get a very holistic glimpse po, a holistic view po of your health situation. The healthcare professional will only be able to assess you correctly if you provide the correct information. So important to note po that if you don't go undergo the screening, the initial screening, you will not be booked for your scheduled vaccination. So when will the vaccines arrive and how do I get them? So base case scenario po sa ngayon, sa nakikita nating pag-usad ng ating programa, is that vaccines will arrive in the first quarter of 2021. So the local government units are planning the different preparations for master listing and scheduling of vaccination following the prioritization of the eligible groups, which was predetermined no, by our expert panels and expert groups. So can a person choose the brand or vaccine that will be given to him or her? Actually, madaming tanong to, no? So currently, the answer is no po, no? The national government will vaccinate based on the prioritization and the scheduled delivery of the vaccines. So kung ano po supply na papasok po sa atin, yun po ang pwede nating ibigay sa ating community, sa ating public. If a certain Philippine FDA-approved brand will be delivered first, it will automatically be given po, no, to the first priority eligible group. But can a person decline the vaccination? The answer here is yes also. So anyone may opt to decline the vaccination by signing a waiver. So may waiver po silang isa-sign. This will forfeit his or her slot according to the prioritization of eligible groups, and this person shall be scheduled after all the priority population has been vaccinated. But this is a last, kung sana po this would be the last resort, so we need to exhaust no, all our communication skills and all our motivational skills for the person to actually get the vaccines. So make sure again to obtain your accurate information from the right sources so you are correctly advised no, and informed on the decision you are making before declining the vaccination. Will a person receive the same brand for both doses? So yes po, no? The DOH is coordinating with the local government units to ensure allocation of adequate doses of the same Philippine FDA-approved vaccine brand for getting vaccinated. So again, hindi po pwedeng mag-jump into another brand if you got the first brand of vaccine. So brand X, first dose, second dose, brand X rin po. Hindi po pwedeng mag-brand X on the first dose and brand Y on the next dose. This is because meron pong different mechanisms po no, on how they confer yung ating potential na immunogenicity, and we need to follow through the schedule ng parehas na bakuna. I previously recovered from COVID-19. Do I still need to get vaccinated? So yes, it is recommended that you get vaccinated even if you have recovered from COVID-19. So hindi po contraindication ang pagkakaroon na ng COVID-19 previously para magpapakuna po ng mga bakuna po natin ngayon. So do I need to get tested before getting vaccinated? So hindi rin po kailangan, no? No, you do not need to get tested before or after getting the vaccine because yung ating status is not actually seen here as a part ng ating criteria. So ipapakita ko lang po dito yung vaccination procedure natin, no? So we're done discussing yung registration, pre-vaccination counseling, and final consent, and screening. Now, pupunta tayo sa vaccination. So before vaccination, ano po dapat gawin natin? So, go to your assigned vaccination site as scheduled, no? So, kailangan pa rin i-maintain ang minimum public health standard. We need to wear our face mask, face shield, and stay at least 1 meter away from each other. So, after that, the next step is to sign the informed consent signifying you are, number 1, aware of the benefits and risks of the vaccine, and number 2, if you're willing to get vaccinated. So on the day of vaccination, our healthcare workers will monitor you, no, for 30 minutes to 1 hour before you can go home for any unusual symptoms or adverse events. So hindi pag nabigyan na po ng bakuna ay papauwiin na natin. We need to monitor them. And more so, all vaccinated Filipinos will be monitored for 12 months after they get their shot to look kung ano yung mga effects, no, ng mga adverse effects natin dito. So adverse events following immunization will be monitored strictly by our healthcare professionals. So if hospitalization is needed, kailangan ma-hospital yung pasyente, existing PhilHealth cases rates for AFIs will be used. And during the master listing and profiling, PhilHealth will be also providing yung registration natin sa mga on-site areas natin. What do I do after vaccination? So usual symptoms may be experienced, no, including yung pamumula, pananakit, at saka swelling, no, yung pamamaga dun sa injection site, as well as yung mga flu-like symptoms natin. And these are normal signs that your body is building up protection. So if the discomfort no, increases after 24 hours or unusual symptoms are worrying you, you can report to the nearest health authority for appropriate management. So the health authorities will investigate no, if the symptoms or adverse events you experience is caused by vaccine or just mere coincidence. So ito yung mahalaga, no, that we should not always correlate it with the vaccine, but there should be an intensive investigation kung dala ba talaga ng bakuna or nagkataon lang. So most COVID-19 vaccines offer protection after 2 doses, no? So kailangan makompleto yung second dose even if you experience some unusual symptoms. Unless of course, sabihin ng healthcare professional nyo na you cannot get your second shot for medical purposes na ma-evaluate ng inyong healthcare worker. Question number 9, and we're nearing na to the last two questions. So number 9, after vaccination, can I go back to not wearing face masks and face shields? This is a big no po, no? And this should be very emphasized in all our communication. Na hindi po dahil nagkaroon ng bakuna ay immune na yung tao, hindi na magkakaroon ng sakit at wala ng tsansa, no? The COVID-19 vaccine is just an additional tool, no? So added layer of protection siya from COVID-19. So kailangan po that this is coupled with our non-pharmacological interventions or our minimum public health standards to be continued, no, for protection ng inyong sarili at ng pamilya at ng komunidad. This way, we can be safer from the threats of COVID-19 transmission and yung mga variants niya. So how do we continuously protect our families? We protect our families by one, getting ourselves vaccinated. And by getting ourselves vaccinated, we need to vaccinate also our immediate families too, no? Para we will spread the word. We will spread the protection of this vaccine. And we protect our families by recommending the vaccine to other outside of our immediate families. So word of mouth, kailangan po natin encourage lahat. As I've mentioned a while ago, kailangan po ng 70% of the population should be vaccinated para po ligtas at protektado ang komunidad. Last, this is number 10. How do I ensure that vaccines I get are authentic, no? So only COVID-19 vaccines with Philippine FDA certification and are transported under strict cold chain conditions are able to provide full protection for those who are vaccinated. So FDA is releasing a list po, no, kung ano yung may mga EUA na at yung mga pwedeng gamitin ng gobyerno sa programang ito. So which vaccines can harm our safety? Actually, there are two, no? Yung counterfeit vaccines or yung non-Philippine FDA approved, yung hindi po na-aprobado ng FDA natin. At pangalawa, yung authentic vaccines rin natin na transported na mali, no? Mali yung temperature at mali yung handling. So this can be also detrimental. So the national government has been preparing for the requirements, no, lalo na sa cold chain natin, of different COVID-19 vaccines. Cold storage facilities for 2 to 8 degrees and negative 20 degrees Celsius have been mapped out, no, from central and regional warehouses. So magkakaroon po tayo ng cold chain storage facility provider at sila po yung mag-ensure na itong mga bakuna po natin will be delivered in appropriate temperatures from the supplier to the regional or to the central warehouses, then to the implementing units we have discussed a while ago, until they are given to the recipients. So for the third possible requirement of ultra-low freezers at negative 70 degrees Celsius, the cold storage facility provider will deliver straight na, no, sa implementing units natin. So ito yung mga bakuna na kailangan ng sub-zero talaga, yung mga negative 70 degrees. So I think this is my last slide, no? So part of the critical planning steps is a timely delivery of logistics. So these temperature requirements have been coordinated with LGUs and cold storage facilities providers to ensure that COVID-19 vaccines are stored and transported in the appropriate temperature requirements. So nagkakaroon po tayo ng proseso para po masigurado na yung mabakuna na pupunta sa ating mga komunidad ay potent pa rin po, no, at hindi na apektuhan ng handling at saka ng temperatura. So those are the 10 must-knows po, no, na kailangan po natin isaalang-alang, no, when we're communicating, because these 10 questions are actually touch points to a more fruitful and a more productive discussion with our clients and to the public. That's it. So thank you, everyone, and good morning to our health education promotion officers and our communication officers in the whole Philippines. Maraming salamat po.
Tara, sa Vida Vaccination!